Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing-related tweets, or you can subscribe to the channel and get notifications whenever a new video is uploaded. So, Alan Babic has had surgery on his shoulder. He snapped a ligament against Tom Little in that win. He's now 6-0 with 6 knockouts. Very exciting, come-forward fighter, frenetic tempo. There's talks of 2 different potential opponents. One of them is David Price, and the other one is Lucas Browne, and that would be in May. Babic told Sky Sports that he felt the injury happen in the first round. And it was terrible pain, but he fought through the pain, and eventually when he had an MRI, he saw that it was the upper bicep that was torn, and obviously he's had to have surgery. He says that he'll return in May, and he hopes there'll be a crowd there. I wouldn't hold my breath, Alan, to be honest with you. But yeah, in terms of potential opponents, let's discuss what this means. He did say he would like Lucas Browne, so a lot of the talk about David Price has been from other quarters. He personally said, Lucas Browne, I think we would go to war because I've been tested. They test me every fight. I was tested 6 times. So now I want someone who will really hit me back. 3 fights would be okay this year, but I would like 4. That was his quote regarding this. Now let's talk about the potential fights. You know, when it comes to David Price is a guy who is in an unusual situation because in terms of offensive skill set, he's much better than domestic level. Much better. He's above European level when it comes to offensive skill set. He's got a lot of power. He's got a really good jab, a monster right hand. He's got some powerful hooks. The negatives, the weaknesses, the limitations of David Price come in his defensive skill set. Now, back in the day when he first broke onto the scene and people were saying this guy's a monster, he's the new, he was the AJ before AJ, so to speak, in terms of the prospects that were built up in the UK. He was the guy people were saying he's going to go on to become the champion, the king of the heavyweight division. And people were mocking Tyson Fury for punching himself in the face and things like that. And I always said, for me, Fury was the more complete fighter. Fury was the guy that had the tools to overthrow Klitschko one day if he continued to develop on the trajectory he was developing. Whereas with Price, one thing I saw that I didn't like early in his career, way before he even got hurt, when an opponent would hit back, I could tell he didn't like it. He wasn't taking the shot and, it wouldn't trigger a shot back. You land on him, so he opens up and he lets go of his shots. That wasn't happening. He also wasn't creating a situation whereby he was deflecting shots, moving out the way, looking comfortable. Instead, he'd bring those big arms together, cover up, and just lean back on the ropes. And he would often get on his heels as well when leaning back, never in a position to throw back. And it never looked as though, this guy's taking a shot, it's not affecting him. Even at a very low level, I could tell he didn't like getting hit. So I always knew, look, when he goes to a higher level and guys are going to be hitting harder and they're going to be more creative in the way they attack, he's going to have some serious problems. But that was just speculative. I'd never seen anything to suggest that, look, he can't take a shot. I just knew that he didn't like it. I could tell, I could pick up on it, even though it wasn't obvious. And lo and behold, as he got through to Thompson, who was a very good heavyweight, by the way, very underrated heavyweight, you saw that actually against the big heavyweight that can pick his punches and really put it on a guy who's coming forward, Price fell apart. However, what's happened now since then, because of that, boxing fans, for me, generally speaking, tend to do 2 things when it comes to either overrating or underrating a fighter. Number 1, they always overrate a puncher. If a guy's got a lot of power, guys will automatically go, he's a monster puncher. He touches guys and they go to sleep. He's going to the top just because he carries power. And when a guy doesn't have power, they instantly assume that for some reason he can't go to the top. Okay, the other thing they do, apart from overrate the importance of punching power, the other thing they do is underrate a guy who's got a questionable chin. Now, take Amir Khan as an example. Amir Khan's achieved some incredible things. Look at his career. Look at the names he's beaten. Look at what he's achieved. Look at what he achieved at amateur level as a 17-year-old. Incredible career. How many people have really sparked Khan out? I'll let you go and look at his BoxRec record and tell me how many have knocked him out. And then go and look at how many people he's been in with that can actually punch. And they don't all get him out of there. But there's this view that, Khan's got a glass jaw. You just touch him and he goes to sleep. Well, a similar thing, David Price hasn't achieved anywhere near what Khan did. But a similar thing has happened with David Price in the sense that people automatically assume this guy's a bum because he's got no chin. That's just not true. That's not the reality. Okay. When he was going to fight Dave Allen, I personally thought that was a mismatch. I felt David Price going to win this fight quite comfortably. But people thought, oh, Allen can carry it, take a shot, he can carry that, he's going to walk him down, he's going to bring incessant pressure, and the glass jaw of David Price is going to get exposed and he's going to get knocked out. That never crossed my mind. Because in terms of skill set, you're talking about a very high level of offensive skill set. Well, a similar thing occurs here with Babic, in my opinion. Babic will come forward and he'll pile on pressure. He'll bring, an incessant tempo, a lot of aggression, some good punching power, and he'll look to get at David Price. But make no mistake, David Price has operated at a high level. He's been in there and had some success without winning the fights, hurting the likes of Povetkin, hurting the likes of Chisora. This is a guy that's been in there against Kuzmin and against gatekeeper level guys, and they're the ones, the upper echelons. Tony Thompson, who was a contender, a good fighter. These are the guys, the upper echelon sort of A- type guys or B+ guys that have too much going forward offensively for Price's defensive limitations. It's not the guys who are at domestic and European level who are coming forward and bringing aggression that take out David Price. It's not those guys. A guy that leads with his face and looks to get in your face, and just look to put it on you is not going to have much success against Price. He's going to be walking onto right hands. He's going to be walking onto uppercuts. And I'm not so sure he's going to have enough to be able to force Price into a situation where Price can't handle it. If it was Babic Price at this stage of Babic's career, where he's 6-0, I fully expect David Price to win the fight by knockout. With Lucas Browne, it's somewhat potentially of a different situation. Because Lucas Browne has some great attributes if you go back to the early part of his career. Browne in his prime, this was a big puncher who could move. He could move his feet. Because he was top heavy, people didn't give him credit for that. They assumed that he was just some guy that couldn't move around the ring. This is not actually true. He has an MMA background. And one thing you have to know, if you've got an MMA background, you have to have been pretty good on your feet. If you weren't light on your feet and able to come in and out quickly, you're not going to last in MMA. Because you're not going to be able to evade takedowns. You're not going to be able to evade kicks to the legs, to be light on your feet enough to check a kick to the leg and stuff like that, or step out of it and come back in. You're not going to be able to do it. And this is why when you look at, say someone like James Toney, when James Toney looked to make the crossover, I know he was old, but Toney, even in his old age, was quite effective in boxing. He'd dip down, he'd, bump you with his shoulder on the inside, line up, hit your center line with his shoulder, be in a situation where he's out of position. You can't land anything clean on him, and he's smart and he's wily. Well, when he made that MMA crossover for that one-off fight, it didn't work for him because he was too stationary. So the very first time there was an attempted shoot, a takedown, he couldn't evade it. And once he takes your leg and you're down and you're a boxer against a grappler, the fight's over. It's game over. So if you are like that throughout your MMA career, you're not going to last long at all. You have to be able to be light enough on your feet to maintain range. Now, Lucas Browne, of course, brought that into boxing. And when he won his world title fight, you could see he got on his feet and he was light on his feet and he was pumping out that jab effectively. He carries a lot of power. We know that. A very heavy-handed guy, and he was effortless with his power. He didn't have to load up. He's almost placing his punches. But the problem is with Lucas Browne, he's often been in terrible, terrible shape. And by the time he fought someone like Dillian Whyte, he looked a mess. He came in so fat. He was by then very stationary. You're not going to get in a ring against a guy like Dillian Whyte in that sort of condition and come out the other side. He got battered, clearly. And it wasn't a surprise to see him get knocked out brutally. If he comes in like that, which he came in like that against Dave Allen too, Babic has a chance against him, just like Dave Allen did. Dave Allen dropped him and beat him with a body shot. However, up until that body shot, Browne was the one winning the fight. He was the one with his monotonous, low-tempo placing of shots, was the one that was landing flush on Allen, and he was affecting him. The question is, can Lucas Browne at this stage of his career come in a manner that is going to be where he's going to be able to take on the sort of punishment that Alen Babic is going to dish out? Because he's going to come and bring a high tempo. He's going to target that body. Is that body going to be in a good enough condition to take what Babic has to dish out? If he does, then he has the superior skill set. He's the bigger one-punch knockout artist. You'd have to say he can roll back the years. You'd have to fancy Lucas Browne. But with Lucas Browne in the current condition he's in, it becomes a much more interesting fight because he's way past his best. And in the past, I used to chat to Lucas Browne on social media quite a lot. And he was always he'd always react very well when you were praising him. But one time, and listen, he came across to me always like a nice guy. I don't know him on a personal level. I know there was a lot of controversy with some things he said. In the latter part of his career after he'd fought White and stuff like that. But as a character, he was always engaging on Twitter. Now, that changed from what I'd seen. Again, I don't chat to him often now, but in the latter part of his career, I was once involved in a thread on Twitter where I was talking to somebody, or was it Facebook? It was somewhere where I was ages ago when I haven't been on Facebook in a long time. I don't have an account there, but on Twitter, I think it was Twitter, there was a long thread, an engagement with someone where I was discussing Lucas Browne, and I was basically saying how he's way past his career and needs to retire. Browne wasn't in the thread. I don't know if someone tagged him in or whatever. He obviously was following his own name, or someone tagged him in. He got involved and he didn't like what I'd said. And he goes, "What are you talking about? I was winning the fight and it was a lucky body shot." So he's still of the mindset that, what happened with Alan was a one-off thing and he could still roll back the years. Let me know what you think about that. I definitely don't think he can roll back the years, but does he have enough in him to beat Alan Babic? That's a much more interesting fight to me than Babic Price, which I still think is a bit of a mismatch. Let me know what you think about Alan the Savage Babic. Am I underrating him? How do you think he'd cope against these two guys? He's definitely entertaining. Would you like to see him in the ring again? Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care and God bless.